All right, going to call the regular meeting of council to order for Tuesday, July 4th. Before approval of the agenda, Mr. Woodward, would you like to introduce your new staff member?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce Natalie Whalen, who's our Chief Financial Officer. She's a chartered professional accountant and also with a CMA designation, and she has 25 years in local government. And I'd like to introduce her. Stand up then.
Don't hit the wall. Thank you. Worked with all of you guys on the budget. It's really nice. It was great working with the community, which helped entice me to jump ship and come on over. So I've worked from municipalities from the size of the village of Lytton up to regional districts, Fraser Fort George, Cowichan Valley regional districts. I'm also on the Government Financial Officers Association International Budget and Standing Committees. So I've got international work I do as well. So it's going to be a pleasure working with you, and let's take in the next steps.
Perfect. Welcome. Okay, do approval of the agenda, please. Councilor Norbury.
That the July 4th, 2023 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as presented.
Seconder. Councilor Dussault. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of minutes for June 5th, 2023 regular council meeting minutes. Councilor Norbury.
That council adopts the June 5th, 2023 regular council meeting minutes as presented.
Seconder. Councilor Julich. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? Carried. June 7th, 2023 special council meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. Councilor Dussault.
That the council adopts the June 7th, 2023 special council meeting minutes as presented.
Seconder. Councilor Norbury. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? Carried. June 21st, 2023 special council meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. Councilor Dussault.
That council adopts the June 21st, 2023 special council meeting minutes as presented.
Seconder. Councilor Norbury. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? Carried. Business arising from the minutes, staff?
We have none, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Council? Okay. Moving on to delegations, Tumbler Ridg Community Garden and Composting Society. Shauna Shea, President, to update council on the society's activities. Please, welcome. Oh, no, there should be a button on top.
Yeah, it's flashing green. Can you hear me now? Yep. Good evening. My name is Shauna Shea, and I'm the president of the board for the Tumbler Ridg Community Garden and Composting Society. On behalf of the community garden, I would like to thank the District of Tumbler Ridg and Council for your partnership and your past support, which includes support with our irrigation system, our annual truckloads of manure, the lease and insurance, and occasional outhouse maintenance. And with that said, I'm just here today to discuss continuing our partnership and renewing our lease for another 5 years.
Perfect. All right, thank you very much. I think you guys have done an amazing job up there.
Thank you so much.
Drive by there, I honestly used to rent a plot and then I would just donate it. And I actually came off the list by accident, but got one question for you. It's been raised a few times. Is the community garden looking to be able to expand up there?
It's something that we've discussed. I know previously it was offered, and I think the issue at that time was funding when it came to like the fence and the irrigation. It is something that I think we would discuss for the future. But with that said, I think that there are some challenges that we would face, funding challenges as well. Like it would be absolutely amazing, but it would also allow for us to build more raised garden beds to increase our income and provide more opportunities to strengthen food security in our community. However, there would be many expenses associated with the expansion, including fencing costs, irrigation, lumber. I'm currently volunteering between 20 to 30 hours up there right now. We would need more support and funding, which would include creating maybe a paid position for someone. We would also need to purchase new equipment and tools that would allow us to develop and maintain that area.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. Any more questions? Councillor Julik? Don't be sorry.
I have this new composting machine, which works wonderfully, but I don't really necessarily have some place to put all that stuff. Is that something I can bring to you?
Absolutely.
Okay, just connect with you and meet you up there someday while you're up there. And
Yeah, we have a volunteer who is running the compost right now. We have a 3-bin compost system. So we accept some items not so much. But yeah, you can just contact us, let us know what you have. And
it's just that machine. Yeah, and so it's like, don't get me wrong, I've got the smaller one and I just got a little pail, but at this current time, I don't have a lot of places to put it, and I just saw composting. I'm like, oh, well, maybe they could use it.
we would gladly take it.
All right, thanks.
Council, any more questions? Comments? Council Norbury?
I had a comment. Thanks for coming in, Shauna. I follow you. I'm on your Facebook, on the Facebook group, and I know you're doing a great job up there. I've been seeing your presence and bringing everything up. It's an amazing job that you're doing and making a collaborative environment, getting people involved up there. I know I drive by regularly and I see people out there working, which is good to see. So just want to say good job, and if there's anything you need, let us know.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
Perfect. Councillor Julik?
I just wanted to say thanks to, same as Councillor Norbury, I follow you on Facebook and I think you guys do a great job. And I guess for me, it's like, there's never enough accolades, I don't think, for those things. And I know that's not why you do it. I can tell that you just love to be out there, but I think it's a really great addition to our community. And so thanks for all the work that you do out there.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see a concern in regards to renewing the lease and helping out there with the outhouse and the other stuff you'd mentioned. I guess my comment would be, if the community gardens is ever thinking about an expansion, to please reach out.
Okay.
There's other options out there in regards to grants that we can assist with and stuff at the beginning, and probably help with that concept of it. And whether it's, like you said about a paid employee, I think Mackenzie Trust, they talk about the new concept if it's a new job, which obviously you're looking at no longer volunteer, maybe there needs to be a part-time paid person. I believe they support that, and I think we could support that with a letter as well. If it's something you want to look into, I mean, I'd assist you for sure. I think what you guys have going up there is great. People drive by it. I know other organizations have come into the community, went up and looked at the community gardens as well. Great. So hats off to yourself being the president, but also all your members up there weeding and opening it up to non-members. We can still come up there and assist the community gardens and partake in the share garden. So absolutely. That's always open to people that do not have a membership up there or a garden bed up there. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're all good?
Yeah, awesome. Did you want me to touch base on the pictures that I had submitted?
Yeah,
today?
you can touch, yeah.
Yeah, so that's our newly developed share area. So it's a large plot of land consisting of rows of mounded soil that's covered with plastic mulch. The plastic mulch helps control the weeds, increases soil temperature, it minimizes soil erosion, and helps increase crop yields. Then holes are burned into the plastic mulch, allowing us to grow produce within each hole. So for example, we can grow about 200 heads of lettuce in one row. We have 6 rows up there right now. So this technique will allow us to feed over 200 families this growing season. This year is our first year with the plastic mulch, so it's just an experiment right now. So it could be well over 200 families, but that's what we're estimating for this growing season. So, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I've seen that too, and just to mention on that too, like I see a lot of commercial gardens do that in regards to, especially on Vancouver Island. They use a lot of that concept to not only help the weed base, but obviously retain the heat. So I think where we live in the north, I think that really helps retain the heat for yourselves up there as well.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, well, thank you very much for coming in for your presentation.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, Disc Golf Committee, request from Phil Duffy from the GP Disc Golf Club, and Dave Thompson and Mark Campbell from WNMS regarding layout/area for permanently installed disc golf course in Tumbler Ridg. Please, welcome.
Hi there, and thanks for having us. I'll just introduce myself first. My name is Philip Duffy. I'm the Vice President of the Grand Prairie Disc Golf Club, and I have a property I'm a Grand Prairie resident, but I do have a property in Tumbler Ridg, and I'm part of the WNMS committee for disc golf as well. Okay, I just want to touch base as well on why I bought a property in Tumbler Ridg. My family is big into hiking. We're big into mountain biking. A lot of activities that are really you can do in Tumbler Ridg. And one of the selling points for us was when we saw kind of the commitment, the master plan that the community had for mountain bike trails in the area. So I just want to kind of give that an example that sport tourism does draw people in. And we're a perfect example where my family bought a house here because of the sport tourism in the area. Okay. Do you guys want to choose?
Hi, my name is Mark Campbell. A member of the WNMS executive and also on the disc golf committee. First, I wanted to start with a thank you to council and mayor for keeping everyone informed during the recent evacuation. You know, it was an emotional time for all of us, and it was great to see the support from the district. My history with disc golf goes back to the late 80s, early 90s. Living in Vancouver, we developed many courses, and I was part from grassroots and development of courses, and in the 2000s installed a course in Langley. And when I saw the activity going on here last summer with a real course set up over by the Ball Diamonds, I felt compelled to get involved and lend my expertise to that area.
Hi, my name's Dave Thompson. I'm the WNMS president and also on the committee for the disc golf. We, as a society, decided that disc golf would be a good thing to bring under our umbrella, as it met many of our values of being a non-motorized sport, family-friendly, something that encourages exercise and is something that anybody can play. And I've played it for many years. I've played in Fernie, Sparwood, Elkford, all the tech communities. And I'm trying to convince my employer, Kanuma, to support this endeavor as well. And as you probably know, as Phil's going to explain to us in a couple of minutes here, that all the communities nearby, other than Chetwynd, I think, have disc golf courses already, at least one. And we think it's something that's long overdue here. So we're really happy to start the process last year with the temporary baskets, 9 of them. We think that we can build a really good course here, a professional level course that would be used, for millennia. I think it's a great addition to our community, and I hope that we can, well, I don't know if we have to convince you. Many of you probably already convinced that it's something we could really use as a community. Phil?
All right, thanks, guys. So just to give a quick summary of what is happening with disc golf in Tumbler Ridg currently. So there is a 9-hole temporary course set up over by the baseball diamonds. The baskets, they're unofficial baskets. They're I guess, the sheep-oriented ones, meaning that you can't actually hold a official tournament in Tumbler Ridg currently. There's no signage, and due to this, I guess there's be some mixed reviews from people that are coming in to play the area. The good news, though, is it is getting used. People are using it. And I drove by today, and it looks like already the area that we were wanting to put a permanent course is being mowed, so it doesn't look like there's any additional maintenance that would need to be done. You can rent discs at the community center as well. Okay. Our vision is that we want to build a world-class disc golf course in Tumbler Ridg for all residents to enjoy while increasing sport tourism by drawing regional players to the area. Okay. The good news, I guess you might think it sounds a little bit expensive. The good news is it's one of the cheapest sports you can invest in. And the difference between a good course and a great course is very marginal as well. So those are some of the good things for that. Okay. The benefits to Tumbler Ridg residents is disc golf is an activity which can share the land with other environmental friendly user groups such as biking, hiking, snowshoeing, horseback riding, so it doesn't really change anything that's already in there. It's a low-cost recreation option for athletes of all abilities, can be built on unsuitable terrain for other activities or developments, and it's an inexpensive investment in recreation compared to other activities. Also, you can also play it year-round. So in Grand Prairie, there currently is quite a few people that play it in the winter as well. So by installing a permanent course, you can have people playing it year-round. Alignment with the Municipal Recreation Master Plan. So I took a look at your guys' master plan from 2019. Some of the key notes that I noticed with disc golf that kind of ties to it. It removes financial and social barriers to recreation. So one of the biggest barrier to participation are fees. If things are expensive, that basically is a barrier for people to use it. So disc golf is something that is free to play. Discs cost, like the equipment costs, range from the $10 to $20. Really, you only need one disc to get started. So that removes a lot of the financial and social barriers to recreation. It enhances recreation opportunities for both residents and visitors of all ages. It can involve municipal, nonprofit, and business partnerships. And disc golf was also included in the 2019 Tumbler Ridg Parks and Recreation Master Plan. It was listed as kind of the 5-year away, so that would kind of tie in already into 2014. What's also really important to note is that because of the pandemic around 2020, disc golf was one of the sports that really wasn't affected in a negative way because of the pandemic. You could also social distance while you're playing. The numbers basically tripled for people playing in the year 2020. So a lot of communities had it in their master plans to get it in 5 to 10 years, but because of the popularity of the sport, that quickly upgraded it to communities getting in within 1 or 2 years. Okay, I just want to skip to the growth of the sport. So I made this presentation in 2021. I had a counselor from Tumbler Ridg that was interested in disc golf, so I kind of made this report for him. And in brackets in the white, I have the stats from 2021. In green is 2023. So first of all, in 2021, there was 300 courses that existed in Canada, and BC having the most of any province with 88. Within 2 years, Canada has 729 courses and 159 in BC. What's really important to note here, this already is out of date as well. So I updated it last month, and currently it's out of date again. So I think Canada has about 750 courses or so, and I know BC is getting close to 170. And I personally know of lots of courses that aren't in, in this count, that will be in the count pretty soon. So it's one of the most popular sports, and it's growing quite a bit. I also attached just some quotes I got from some Grand Prairie players about, the sport tourism and their commitment. And it sounds like if there was a really good course in Tumbler Ridg, you would be drawing people from Grand Prairie, Fort St. John, Dawson Creek, which have very established clubs. I know if we go to the next page, just looking at the growth of the sport and the piece. So looking at our stats, there's an app that you can use for disc golf. We had over 500 different people record scores played in Grand Prairie in 2021. And this is only using the people that use the app. So it's hard to say exactly how many people that disc golf use the app, but I'd say we'd be pushing close to 1,000 different people that have played disc golf in Grand Prairie. Dawson Creek and Fort St. John are also recording lots of big numbers as well. So in the Peace region, there is a huge population of people that play. There's tournaments in Grand Prairie regularly. They've taken players from Dawson, Fort St. John, Prince George, Hinton, Edmonton. We've also had people traveling as far from Whitehorse in Victoria. I know Dawson Creek just recently had a tournament. Fort St. John is having tournaments as well. So there is tournaments in these clubs. So if we had a proper course, if we had tournaments in Tumbler Ridg, guaranteed people would be coming in. The numbers for Grand Prairie in our previous tournament was about just over 60 players. So that's a lot of people that have to come in to get camping, hotel rooms, and whatnot. In 2021, Grand Prairie hosted the Alberta Provincials. We had 161 participants in the tournament. The estimated total net economic activity was $26,000 from that weekend of disc golf. Okay. Grand Prairie has 3 courses. Fort St. John has 2 courses. Dawson Creek and Pouskoop all have 1 each. Okay. The area that we're looking at putting the course in is the same place that the temporary course is. So kind of in a red outline there, that's where we want the course. It's close to Monkman RV Park, so people would want to camp there if they're playing in tournaments or just coming down for the weekend. It's a beautiful variety of terrain. It has established parking with garbage bins and outhouse. So a lot of the infrastructure that a course needs is already in place. The wooded areas aren't decimated by deadfall, so having volunteer labor have to remove that is attainable. It's easy to install a course without any major issues. course is easily seen by incoming vehicles. If you're coming in north from Dawson Creek, it'd probably be the first thing that you'd see when you're coming in. And it doesn't alter any current trails or activities in the area. I know myself personally, when I used to come to Tumbler Ridg, before I had a house here, I was able to come to Tumbler Ridg, do a hike, do a bike ride, and go back to Grand Prairie on one tank of gas. And I actually never stepped foot in town at all. So this is an activity that if somebody comes in, wants to do a hike or whatnot, but they also want to play disc golf, it's going to be something that draws people into the town as well. So there'd be an economic benefit from that as well. Next is just some of the equipment that is needed. So on a disc golf course, you'd have a tee pad, which can be either made of concrete, rubber, or turf, depending on what your options are that you want. You'd have a basket, and then you'd have kind of a hole signage as well, similar to what a normal golf would be. And if installed correctly, this stuff lasts forever. I know in Grand Prairie, the one course has been up for about 13 or 14 years now, and there's really not much wear and tear on the baskets at all. We've just had to do minor maintenance to the baskets. But in Edmonton, I think they're going on 25 years now with the same baskets. So this is a very safe and sustainable sport. And lastly, I just want to go off by there's finding opportunity in being late to the game. So Tumbler Ridg, it's hard to say if you're late to the game or not. A lot of BC already has established courses. What happened though was before the pandemic, a lot of municipalities would, I would say they wouldn't fund it properly, or they'd be relying completely on volunteer design, volunteer labor, and courses weren't necessarily installed. I wouldn't say properly, but not to the best pedigree that you could put in a course. So what's happening is a lot of these bigger communities like Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, they don't have the space anymore to put in new disc golf courses. And what we're finding is some of the smaller towns that put in a little bit of funding for it, they have the space for it. They actually are the ones that have some of the best courses in Canada. So if you look at some of the biggest tournaments that are taking place in Western Canada, it'd be Grand Prairie, Canmore, Kamloops, Langley. Some of this, like it's not the huge, like Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver hasn't really held massive tournaments just because their courses aren't up to par, or they already have a course established, but just the way the sport has gone, it hasn't been designed properly. So this is kind of an opportunity where it's like, oh, we've got to learn from other clubs, we've got to learn from other mistakes that other communities have. And it's really not unreasonable to think that Tumbler Ridg could have one of the best courses in Canada with something that's relatively a small investment. I'll take questions in a sec. One thing, I guess, I do have a budget here. So looking at if we were to get basically a turnkey course permanently installed, we'd be looking at the total cost is about $40,000 in total. Now, we haven't talked completely about exactly where all the funding would be going or what grants we would be looking for. I guess today, what our main goal was to get was kind of a user agreement or an agreement that we can put a permanent course in the area that we're looking. Because I know whenever, like I've done a lot of grant applications in the Grand Prairie Disc Golf Club, and the first thing that they're asking is, well, do you have a user agreement? Are you allowed to do this? So that's the main thing that we want to get out of today is this something that we're allowed to do? Is this something that you guys want to go forth with? And then maybe working with the district, figuring out ways to fund this, maybe seeing what grants we can apply for, and then going forth from there.
All right. Just making a mention one thing about the, first of all, thank you very much for your presentation. One thing we never do is make a decision on delegation nights. So if anything to get pushed off to a PMP, I understand you're looking for something right away on that, but it would get pushed to a PMP or the next regular council meeting. Just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah.
Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. Thank you all for coming in. I'm one of those people that Dave mentioned earlier. I'm already in. I think it's a great idea. All the things you mentioned really strike a key with me, and like the being accessible to the public. It's a low cost for us, low cost for the user. One of the questions I did have was your potential course does abut next to the Saddle Club property. Has there been any discussions with them on how this may affect them? I know it's not particularly their land, but, you know, they might be your neighbors. I was just curious if you had any conversations with them.
Yeah, I can answer that first, and if you guys have anything to add. I know that we did actually talk to them, and I think we had a letter of support from them. However, we didn't have time to get it properly. Like, they looked at it, but they didn't sign off on it, so I didn't want to include it in the presentation just because they didn't sign it. But they are well aware of it. And one of the first things we do when we design is we want to make it safe and sustainable. So we'd make sure that in no way that they would be affected by it. And we actually, in the letter of support, it does say that the final design they would be called in to check out the final design too, to make sure that it would be proper. And that's something we've been thinking about too while we're kind of testing out some play areas. We're like, we want to make sure we give them a bit of a buffer zone too. So, anything else?
Go ahead, Councilor Barry.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. Because like myself personally, I don't like trading one for another, right? And the same thing for you guys, you know, if we're successful in this partnership moving forward, you know, I'd make sure that nobody jumps in your lane there. But like when you were asking about funding and stuff like that, so I think we as a municipality, we do have some opportunities for you. Like we have a advertising policy which allows user groups to sell advertising, and maybe there's a way you can work that out. So I suggest you speak with our staff about it. And you know, if this is a couple steps down the line, but some organizations have sold the naming rights to things. So like our TR Day Society sold the naming rights to their stage, and they're able to use that as a way to gain funds for their projects. Maybe that's something that could help you out in this venture as well. That's a couple steps down the line, but I do want to share that with you because you're looking for funding. Mm-hmm. But yeah, first step would be getting that agreement going, and yeah. So thank you for coming in. Appreciate it.
Any more questions from council? Councilor Dussault.
Hi, I just want to say thank you for coming in with your presentation. I think that was really great. I have seen your setup, and I've been eager to try it out myself. So after hearing this today, I'm very interested in that. So I hope you can get your funding, and I hope we can get this going in Tumbler. That would be really great.
Thank you.
Any more questions from council? I just have one actually. And how many tournaments are average in a year in the north? So including the Grand Prairie, the Fort St. John, the Dawson, the Pouce-Coupe.
Yeah, I forgot to mention this. So in Grand Prairie alone, Grand Prairie has usually 2 official tournaments. That doesn't include, I guess there's 3 tournaments. There's 2 kind of adult tournaments and then 1 that's specific for juniors. So 1 has already happened and the juniors has already happened, and then we're having 1 more tournament coming up pretty soon. And then there's also there was a corporate tournament last year. So there was about 60 people. I forget which company it was, but they asked for the area and they had a corporate tournament. There's a fundraiser tournament coming up in Grand Prairie in September. I'm a phys ed teacher. I bring school groups out there all the time. I coach volleyball, and my teams go out there all the time for some team bonding. Dawson Creek and Pouce-Coupe, they have 2 tournaments. And Fort St. John, I believe they have 1 for sure. They might have a second tournament as well. So those would be kind of the north. I know Prince George has quite a bit. And Fort Nelson has a course. I don't know if they have any tournaments. There used to be a peace tour between Dawson Creek, Fort St. John, and Grand Prairie. That, I guess, due to the pandemic, that ended up dissolving. And then we're looking to, if Tumbler Ridg gets a course, and we're looking at another municipality as well, we're going to try to restart the peace tour as well.
Okay, good idea. Do you know how many members you have in Grand Prairie?
Paid members, we have 60. I think we're at 70 members right now, part of our nonprofit. But it's, I guess, on our Facebook page is well over 1,000 now for players.
Okay. Would you have the paid members for Dawson Creek?
I don't have. They're a bit lower. If I was to guess, I think last year they were around 30-ish.
Okay. Fort St. John.
Fort St. John. It'd be similar to Dawson Creek too.
Okay. Pouce-Coupe?
They're part of Dawson Creek. So
okay.
yeah, the Dawson Creek Club.
Same course?
No, not. There's 2 different courses, but the Dawson Creek Club manages both courses.
Gotcha. And I know we have 2 gentlemen here in regards to it. Do we have any membership in Tumbler Ridg at this point? I know right now that the course was established last summer, early spring, with unofficial baskets. Do we have a membership here?
I don't believe we do. I know that the temporary course that's up there, the WNMS doesn't necessarily have any affiliation with it, but there. So I guess that would be something to Dave. Do you want to talk about that maybe because we have WNMS members, but we wouldn't have disc golf members.
It's not a separate club.
Okay, appreciate that. And I guess my next question will be to the WNMS. This is something that they're willing to take on with all the trails they also do, because I heard there was some concerns there in regards to volunteer burnout, in regards to trail clearing and such. And I just want to make sure that we're not asking too much of another volunteer group to do something.
No, I think that's it. And one of the things that Phil mentioned is that this is a good area where it's going to need very minimal maintenance. I don't think it's going to be anything like the amount of trail maintenance we have to do. These are, I guess, to give it some perspective, the length of each hole is maybe a quarter of the length of a typical traditional golf hole.
Okay.
So you're only looking at a few hundred feet, and actually having trees down across the course makes it more interesting. And so it doesn't necessarily, halt play if there's overgrown grass or extra trees falling across the fairways.
Okay, thank you for that.
Just when we were evacuated, there happened to be a work bee at the Dawson Creek golf course, and I went and participated, and there was 4 of us, 2.5 hours. We did basically everything that was needed for the summer. So.
Right on. Well, thank you very much for doing that. Appreciate that Dawson Creek helped us, and we had residents from Tumbler Ridg there helping them out. So thank you for that, because that's really important to realize that, we were also there helping too. So thank you for that. Any more questions from council? Oh, sorry, Councilor Julik.
Hi, thanks again for your presentation. So when I'm hearing that, so the baskets that went up now that are unofficial, so was that like a program with WNMS? Because they just kind of popped up for me, so I just wondered how, somebody just volunteered and...
Yeah, pretty much. So the way I understand it was the district bought, I think, 9 of those baskets. I don't know exactly what they were bought for or whatnot. And they had 3 of them around the school area. I think they just had them out. And there was one person that was interested in disc golf, and then it was kind of just unofficially put out there. And so the WNMS doesn't have anything to do with that. We're working with the layout and the people that did that, but we're not officially, that's not our layout or anything like that.
Okay, yeah, because I think I've seen somebody out there once. I only kind of knew about it because somebody else had talked about it. So, I was just wondering how a person got the word out and that kind of stuff. And so you're thinking that if the project goes ahead, you would need minimal help from the district of Tumbler Ridg, you're thinking the mowing happens already, so that would just continue to carry on because we do it already, that kind of thing? Yeah.
Well, what happens in Grand Prairie, so we picked an area that was already being mowed, and then we talked with actually some of the staff that was doing the mowing were disc golfers, and we kind of just talked to them and be like, hey, can we shape this through there? So that'd be kind of the same thing. Like while we're designing it, most of it is already an area that's being mowed, and there's just a few spots where it would be like, hey, can we mow this additionally and whatnot.
And sorry, you probably have this in here. Are you thinking of keeping it at 9 holes, or were you going to 18?
Well, that's a good question. So Dawson Creek right now, so Grand Prairie has 3 18-hole courses. And with that, the reason why we wanted the 18-hole courses is that Grand Prairie has actually put in a bid to host nationals. And we are second in the running for 2023 for this year. And we were asked again to apply for 2024 or 2025. So there's a good chance that Grand Prairie will be hosting nationals then. That's going to be probably approaching with 400 to 500 participants. So you need the courses for that. A good idea to look at, though, is Dawson Creek only has a 9-hole course. So their tournament is only able to host up to about 32 participants just because it would be unsafe to have too many people otherwise. We would much rather have an 18-hole course. The price isn't that much when we're looking at the price between a 9-hole and 18-hole. 18 holes isn't that much more. You have the space. we would have the volunteers right away to put it in. And then that would definitely increase the people wanting to come here for sport tourism. I know just looking at the quotes from when I was talking to people in Grand Prairie, there people would come here to play 9 holes. If it was 18 holes, you could have bigger tournaments, draw more people in the area. So I think economically it would help quite a bit more to have 18 off the bat. And then again, with the low maintenance, once you have 18 in, you're set for 20, 25 years. You don't have to do much. Whereas if you do 9 and then you have to do 9 again later, it's hard to say if the volunteers are going to be there or not at that point.
So in the end, what is it that you're looking for from us at the District of Tumbler Ridge?
To start off with the user agreement, just basically an agreement that you guys you can build a course here, and then we can start. And then I would say maybe look at a bit of partnership of getting some funding, and then also maybe a bit of guidance on which grants to apply for and how to fund this properly.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your delegation. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Okay, moving on to consent agenda recommendation, please. Councillor Julich,
That all items in the July 4th, 2023 consent agenda be moved for information.
seconder. Councillor Clickash, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Is there any items that council would like to bring forward? Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. 7.2, the Coalition of Childcare Advocates of BC.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Noxana, all in favor? Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. So we do have a letter here from Sharon Gregson from the Coalition of Childcare Advocates asking for us to make a resolution on their behalf. I support it. I've spoken with staff to make sure that it doesn't bind us in anything or it won't cause any problems, so I'd like to read the resolution. To get my speaking voice ready. Whereas the Ministry of Education and Childcare is responsible for BC's $10 a day childcare program, and Childcare BC's growing system of universal childcare has been life-changing for families with demand far outstripping supply. And whereas the current grant-based process to expand universal childcare relies on grant applicants to coordinate all aspects of design and implementation, and local Indigenous governments and nonprofit organizations often lack the resources to successfully manage this process in accordance with UBCM-funded childcare needs assessment and action plans. Therefore, be it resolved that while the province continues to rely on individual grant applications to plan and develop childcare expansion, that instead the province provide multi-year funding to local and Indigenous governments and nonprofit organizations to support resources to coordinate this process. And be it further resolved that UBCM urge the Ministry of Education and Childcare to replace the current grant-based application process with the systematic expansion of universal childcare that upholds the UNDRIP obligations and supports the involvement of, but does not rely on, local and Indigenous governments and nonprofit organizations to coordinate design and implementation.
Seconder. Councillor Noxana. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Is there any other items council would like to bring forward? Councillor Noxana.
7.3.
Okay, seconder. I'll second it. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I'd just like to recognize that while this is a great start, I don't think that we should lessen the push for better services now. It says here we've moved from on-call rate of pay from $2 to $12 an hour. Great step, but we're still not at minimum wage. So I'm not sure what other people's thoughts are here, but hopefully we can continue to advocate for the workers in our community.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think we keep advocating. And one thing I'll say is that there's a contract that's going to be coming up here. It hasn't been selected on what car we will have, whether it be a Bravo or an Alpha or what yet, but soon to be heard. One concern I have in regards to this letter is it was wrote December 21st. And we received a reply on June 8th. So that to me is a concern. So I really hope we get to meet with the Ministry of Health, because To me, if we're sending emails to ministry and it takes that long for a reply, I know council tonight before the meeting asked if we'd heard back yet from BC Housing or the housing minister. To me, I'll be honest with you, the housing minister, when I went to Victoria, I thought the response was very quick in regards to having BC Housing in town, as well as 2 staff members from the government. And I know the executive assistant has sent off looking for more of an update, so hopefully it doesn't take this long. So, okay, is there anything else that council would like to bring forward? I'd like to bring forward 7.6. If I can get a seconder. Councillor Noxana, all in favor? Carried. First off, I just want to thank Ms. Tobin for setting that. To me, it's obviously to council too, but mainly for staff's work and being prepared. And I'm not sure how the process worked, and I think that'll come out when we go over scheduling meetings and setting a debrief date. But to see how that went and how we advised, whether it was through the school board or whatever, to give a bit more heads up to the 2 schools in regards to 500 students there. I would like to see, and I'm not sure if we need a motion for this, but I think we should actually get it framed, and it should be out in the galley or the foyer of Town Hall. I think it's very important to recognize not only the teacher, but I mean, obviously this was the class as well. So I think it should be definitely done. I'm not sure if staff needs a motion for that or not.
Certainly not. We'll make sure that this is done.
Thank you. Any more discussion from council? Okay. Is there anything else that council would like to bring forward? Okay. New business. Appointment of Chief Financial Officer. Report dated July 4th, 2023 from the Director of Corporate Services regarding the appointment of the Chief Financial Officer. Councillor Julik.
The council appoints Natalie Wayner to the statutory position of Chief Financial Officer for the District of Tumbler Ridge as described under Appointment of Municipal Officers Bylaw number 582 and Section 149 of the Community Charter.
Seconder. Councillor Dussault. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Word me 9.2, 2022 Statement of Financial Information. Report dated July 4th, 2023 from the Director of Corporate Services seeking the approval of the 2022 Statement of Financial Information. Recommendation, please. Councillor Dussault.
That council approves the statement of financial information, Sophie, for the year ended December 31st, 2022, as presented.
Seconder. Councillor Noxana. Discussion. Pardon me, discussion. Councillor Julik.
Just a simple question. On page 205, it says reconciliation of FIR schedules. Financial. I'm on page 205 of the agenda, and I don't know what page it would be in. It's just 3 or 4 pages in.
What's your question?
I'm wondering what FIR stands for.
Mr. Woodward.
Thank you. It's a privilege to ask the CFO to enlighten us on this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Financial information, and I'd have to look up the R.
Okay.
Okay. If we can just have staff send an email back to council. Any more discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Carried. District of Tumbler Ridge 2022 Annual Report. Report dated July 4th, 2023 from the Director of Corporate Services seeking the adoption of the District of Tumbler Ridge 2022 Annual Report. Recommendation, please. Councillor Dussault.
That the District of Tumbler Ridge 2022 annual report be adopted as circulated.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Hoffman. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay, 9.4 Municipal Insurance Association of BC. voting delegate. Report dated July 4th, 2023, from the Director of Corporate Services regarding the Municipal Insurance Association of BC voting delegate. Recommendation that the Director of Corporate Services, report regarding the District of Tumbler Ridg Municipal Insurance Association of BC voting delegate be received, and the council appoints delegates as the district's representatives to the Municipal Insurance Association of BC. Mayor Kirkauka, alternate 1, Councilor Noxana, alternate number 2, Councilor Norbury. Seconder, please. Councilor Noxana, discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Joe's Pizza Stone lease, report dated July 4th, 2023, from the facilities manager seeking the extension of Joe's Pizza Stone lease agreement. Recommendation, please. Councilor Norbury.
The council approves Joe's Pizza Stone additional 2-year lease agreement extension commencing August 1st, 2023 and expiring July 31st, 2025.
Seconder, Councillor Hoffman. Discussion. Councillor Julik.
A couple of questions. I'm wondering if an inspection has been done by the district, and will it? Just the only difference between this lease and another lease, what I'm thinking is just because we have so much equipment. Is that something that's routinely done? And has there been any other interested parties that have come forward for that space?
I'll ask staff, but I don't know if we have much equipment in there. Most of that is their equipment.
The list in the packet.
Is it? Okay, maybe I missed it, sorry. Mr. Woodward?
Thank you. Director of Corporate Services, respond to it? Can I respond to it, or no?
No,
Oh.
I don't have that information.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
Mr. Bento?
Oh, Mr. Bento, do you have any information on that?
In terms of interest, we don't have any so far. For the second part of the question, right? If there was any other interest, as far as we know, we don't have any interest.
And then the first part of the question in regards to doing an inspection of the district-owned equipment. Is that being done, or should it be done before the lease is signed? Was that your question?
Yeah, that's something we can work on that.
Councillor Julik?
Mostly I just, I don't know if that's standard, if that's something we do standard. It was something that came to me as I was reading, if it's not standard, it's not that I'm thinking that Joe's Pizza Stone needs anything extra. It's just, I thought, if it's, I see that it's just under $42,000 worth of equipment. So I just wondered if that was something that we do standard or not. Because then if something does go wrong, is kind of where I'm thinking.
Mr. Woodward?
Yes. Who wants to respond to that? Let us research it, Mr. Mayor, and we'll get back to you on that.
Okay. Councillor Julik, I suggest we put a motion on the floor looking for a thorough report in regards to the equipment and inspections and inspection times on this equipment if it's owned by the district. I'd put a motion on the floor for that.
And I think what I would be interested in doing, and you can let me know if I can word it, I think it probably would be something we would want to do with, so the golf course and Joe's Pizza Stone, anything where we have equipment on, that's where I'm kind of interested. I didn't want to just,
Yeah, I'd do it for all
For all?
lease locations
Okay.
that we own equipment. If we're not sure of it, we should make sure we're asking for it.
so I would like to make a motion that we get a report. Do we want a report? That we get a report on the efficiency of having any district-owned equipment on leased properties regularly inspected. Okay,
I get it. It's it.
before renewing the lease. Well, no, sorry, I'm gonna regularly inspected.
If we could just have staff just read that back, just before we get a seconder, if council's okay with it, just in case we need to make a change. When you have time. Mr. Woodward?
You want to read that back?
The staff brings a report on the efficiency of the equipment and leases regularly inspected.
I didn't hear it.
That are on leased properties.
Yeah, I'm sorry, can we not to stop the meeting. And can we grab that mic so we can hear it, please? I don't think that mic fits.
Oh, this one here? Yep.
I tried to turn the one close, but I couldn't pick it up. People in view too, right? Sorry about that.
That staff brings a report on the efficiency of having equipment and leases in district properties regularly inspected. Sorry.
Sound good? Okay, take a sec. Thank you very much for staff on that. I'll take a seconder. Councillor Dussault, discussion. Councillor Clickash?
Your Worship, I think we should have a time period, like regularly inspected. What does that mean? Every 2 years or 1 year or what? Do we have it every 6 months?
Yeah, so Councillor Clickash, I think what we're doing is we're looking for a report to see if we actually even do regular. And I'm not saying we don't. We may already be doing it. And then when they come back with that report, if it's, they do it every 3 years, I think if council wants to change it, then we can have that discussion. But I think we got to just see what staff's doing first. And then if we want to see it done more frequently, or we think it should be, we could imagine the report will have that, we should be doing it every year, but we're only doing it every 2 years. And if we wait for the report, I think that information would be in there. Are you okay with that? Okay. Any more discussion? So my understanding, just in regards to this, I guess, my understanding is we would be holding off the renewal of this lease until we have this report. Okay, I just wanted a question on that. Because we're going to have to defeat this motion because we have two motions on the floor. Staff? I don't think I've ever done this before, Mr. Woodward. We actually have one motion on the floor, and we've now put a second.
Right. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure how you're going to deal with that, but I think it's important that we get this lease approved, right? That's the primary factor here. And then the second part is that we will, we'll follow up with establishing, or you're establishing a policy that we will follow up, and we'll bring back that report.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but we have two motions on the floor, and I'd like to help from staff on what we do here. I've never had this. Do we just throw one to the side and vote on one and then come back and vote the other, or is there an actual legal way of doing this to make sure it's done right?
So the motion for the policy is an amendment to the original motion. So the original motion is moved and seconded. You're going to vote on the amendment first and then come back to the original.
There was no amendment, I'm sorry. I'm not willing to say this was an amendment. We had a motion put on the floor, recommendation put on the floor to do the lease extension. And then, in the debate, I messed up and I allowed another recommendation to come on the floor. That was first and seconded.
Just reconsider that last motion. You can do reconsideration.
Reconsider what? I'm sorry, I just want to make sure we're doing this right. Good learning exercise.
Last motion that you put on the floor, that was put on the floor.
To reconsider it for what? For the seconder or defeat it?
Defeat it. Then go back and vote on your first original motion.
Okay. I'm going to put a motion on the floor. How about deferral? Does that work? I just want to do this right. I don't want to turn it down and have to, because then we have to do a reconsideration because we just voted it down. So now you got to do a reconsideration to bring it back on the floor. Do we need a recess to look this up to make sure we do it legally here?
Well, Mr. Mayor, we're dealing with Robert's Rules of Order here, and your first motion that's in order is the renewal of the lease. So you're entitled to vote on that, and you're also then entitled to vote on the second motion that was put in. So if you deal first with the first motion to deal with the lease, if either to approve it or not, and then the second motion is to deal with, it's not an amendment to the motion, it's an independent subject motion, right? Which can be introduced after your first motion.
Okay, thank you. Does council seem comfortable with that? Okay. So the motion that we're first going to vote on is that the council approves Joe Pizza Stone additional 2-year lease agreement extension commencing August 1st, 2023, and expiring July 31st, 2025. Any more discussion on that motion? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried. All right.
May I suggest that the motion put on the table is out of order? I could suggest that at the time that we're going to be introducing motions, that you would introduce that motion at that point.
Okay. So we can introduce it now.
Yes, yes, Mr. Mayor. Under notice of motion, you can introduce that.
We can introduce it here, I think. Notice the motion has come to the next meeting. I'm actually looking for you guys to work on a report. So if we can have staff read that recommendation out, please.
That staff brings a report on the efficiency of having equipments and leases in district's properties regularly inspected.
Thank you for that. Any more discussion in regards to that recommendation? Okay. I call the question. All in favor? Carried. My apologies to council. First day. Sure enough. Sure enough. Okay, 9.6 Golf Course Road Project Considerations. Report dated July 4th, 2023, from the Director of Operations and Infrastructure regarding the Golf Course Road Project Considerations and Recommendation. I'm going to put a recommendation on the, I'll leave it. Councilor Dussault.
That council supports staff's recommendation to complete the Golf Course Road project in a phased approach as outlined in option 1 of their report. And that council forwards the anticipated cost amounts for the year 2 of option 1 to their 2024 budget deliberations.
Seconder. Councilor Noxana. Discussion. Councilor Noxana.
I would still like to see options for a trail going beside this road. We had briefly discussed it in budget talks, and it never came through to the end of the process.
Pardon me.
But I think when we're doing the engineering and the work, it should be something we at least keep in mind.
Yep. Councilor Julik.
I guess I feel like I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball, just simply because I know this was something that the previous council had wanted to move ahead on. And I wouldn't say behind the 8 ball, that's not really true. I'm probably just not on the same level as Mayor Kakauka and Councillor Norbury. What made me think about this a little bit more today was when I was driving to the landfill today. It's in a lot rougher shape and is used a lot more, I would say, than the golf course road. So I guess I'm a little torn in the fact when I look at just under $1 million for year 1, but I know that some of that money's put there already, so I don't know if this is a project that we can back out on, if it's something anybody wants to back out on. But I feel like the trail that, so Ridge Road, I think, is in way tougher shape than the golf course road, if we're going to compare for the amount of use that's on both of them. So I'm kind of just torn. So I'm really looking forward to discussion on this so I can make up my mind.
I got Councillor Hoffman and myself.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a couple of questions on this one. For one, year 2 contingency of 20% instead of 15, I was wondering if that was just in anticipation of prices might be a little more varied, or if there's something more recent on why we're going 20% contingency. And before you answer, the second question is if option 2 is selected, is the maintenance the 150,000 regular cost? Because I didn't see a specific number for what the maintenance would be on a gravel as opposed to asphalted road. I did read the governance considerations, but I didn't see a number comparing what the maintenance cost would be between option 1 and option 2.
Thank you. Mr. Woodward.
Mr. Bradley can answer that question. Mr. Bradley?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, the 20% is in anticipation of elevating costs. The $150,000 in year 2, that would be for materials to bring it back up to grade and road prep to do the final project.
Thank you.
Councillor
And
Hoffman.
if we were going to go to a third year, what would the cost be if it was gravel, if it's just going on maintenance?
Mr. Woodward.
Mr. Bradley, you can answer that question, please?
Unknown at this time.
Okay, so I had similar kind of questions as Councillor Hoffman. Got a couple of comments I want to make with council, I guess. And that came to the budget discussion, and one was already mentioned in regards to a trailway down there. But the other thing that was mentioned at the time when we had this discussion was extra camping stalls. And that was at the 2023 budget discussions. So just, that's the councillor, Julie, just so, you know, you were involved in some of this. Some of this is definitely a carryover from the previous council in regards to this work. But there was talk about the walk, or the trailway, my apologies, call it a walkway, trailway, but also whether we're going to add extra camping stalls down there, because at this point, to me, it seems like the golf course is constantly full, and then they end up parking out into the parking lot. So I think that discussion needs to be had. I understand from staff side, and I've read the reports, you know, we need to get moving on it, but I think we need to make sure we have all the information that council wants to do. If we don't want camp stalls, perfect. Let's make sure we know that. If we don't want the walking trail, let's make sure we know that. So that if staff moves forward on it, that we're not saying, oh, but we didn't get the camping stalls we wanted. So I just want to make sure we're clear on this. And the other thing I'll mention, Councillor Julich, you had mentioned it in regards to the Ridge Road, and I won't say that it's in worse shape than the golf course. The golf course is a hazard, I believe, in regards to the width of the roadway. Now, when I see the year 2 in option 1, and I was actually going to put this for discussion just so we could discuss it a bit, but it's great to have the motion on anyways. But my concern is, do we want to spend approximately $950,000 to put asphalt on the golf course road? For how many people use it? To me, maybe we need to be looking at the concept of keeping it gravel, and I'd like to have a little bit more discussion in regards to it, and maybe staff will be able to answer this. And if not, that's fine. It doesn't hold me up. Is calcium on that road? I know as a rural resident in BC, on the island, we used that a lot to keep dust control down, but it also saved on the gravel base. So that would be one of my comments back, just calcium. I know we've done it down at the transfer station road this year, and I believe there was some added to the golf course road. Is that an option to be looking at that every year so that we don't have to spend $950,000 in asphalt? Mr. Woodward?
Bradley, would you like to respond to that?
Calcium is definitely something that we can look at. We were able to do that down at the transfer station this year. I was able to get it done at a reduced cost through Argo Road Maintenance, almost as a trial. If it was something that we need to regularly do as a maintenance, the cost would definitely go up, but we would definitely be able to look at that in budget.
Thank you, staff, for that. I guess I don't want to get off topic. If we can come back to the transfer road, if somebody can remind me to talk about calcium and transfer road, because there's actually a motion I want to make sure staff's aware of. So I guess the first question back to council is, do we want a walking path? And do we want extra camp stalls? Because that's not included in year 1 on either one of these. So that's got to be something that, to me, we talked about it in budget, and to me, I thought this would come back where we have that discussion. But Councilor Nuxana, you were good? Okay, Councilor Norberry?
I was going to speak to the original motion, but I'll allow the other councillors the opportunity to respond to your question.
Councilor Klikash.
Yes, Your Worship. Are you sure we got property to put in extra camping stalls?
No, I am not sure, but I know we had to take over some of the Crown land because of the road. I'm 100%, not 100%. That would have to be asked to staff. Maybe the camp stalls aren't done, and that's why it never came back. We can ask. Mr. Woodward?
Mr. Mayor, is it possible that you table this report, and we'll come back to you with an additional report? I haven't spoken to this yet, but I have a very serious concern that we would spend $1 million on upgrading that road. yeah, the road definitely does need work. But that, we didn't include that in the report as an alternative not to do anything or just to upgrade it slightly. So if council has a concern about the other issues, then if you would you could table the report, and then we'll come back with additional information on talking about the trail and also the campsites, and we can maybe discuss that at a later date.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Julick?
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I was gonna go. That we're looking at just under $1 million without the camping spots and the trail. Yeah, I guess I'm still not sold on any of it, so I'm in favor of tabling it so we can get the cost amounts, and then we can, like you say, make a decision based on all the information if those are two wants that other council want.
Okay, I'll go to Councillor Norbury after myself, and then Councillor Dussault. So my comments, and I understand the price has gone up. I know in the report it mentions previously we looked at doing this in-house, or there was an assumption we could. I'm not going to say we could have. There was an assumption that it could have been done in-house. I still believe that we have great staff, and there's maybe some of this they may be able to look at, but that's to me why the cost has gone up, is because the assumption that we could do it in-house, as previous spoken about from a previous staff member, I think is where we're at today. To me, I do still believe, I mean, nobody's put a deferred motion on, so I can speak to it. I do believe it still has to be done. I don't golf a ton, so I'm not trying to do a road for Gerald to go golf. That's why I'm okay with gravel. But I have had concerns, and I would think our fire department would have the same concern. My truck's fairly small compared to the engine or the aerial. But when you go down the golf course and you get a truck and a camper coming up there, that is scary. That is like you come around the corner last minute and then poof, they're coming up. That is scary. So I really think this is, if we don't want to look at them, we can wait for more reports and we can do all this. But if to me, the minimum, we need to look at some kind of widening. We have campers going down there. If we have something down there and one of our units have to get down there, it doesn't only put the personnel at risk, it puts whoever may be coming up the hill at risk. And I think that is a huge concern, and I think this is why it was probably brought up previous years and about trying to widen it. That's why property was bought from the provincial government. Councillor Norbury and then Councillor Dussault.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. So, Councillor Julick was bringing up, mentioning that, she was not quite up to speed, and potentially the reason why this is put up before the transfer station road is this is kind of an extension of an already existing project that we're working on with, when we identified the Crown still owned land down there. So I think this was just like a natural progression of, okay, we're shoring up the golf course. Oh, we also have the road down there. It's a natural progression. So, for myself, I would like to defer. It makes sense what we're all saying. And for me, I know there's differences in maintenance costs. We went to a asphalt pump track because the cost of maintenance was quite a bit. So for myself, I'd really like to know what that could potentially be for asphalt versus gravel, and then the gravel with this other treatment that Mayor Kakalka is talking about. I know we've talked about it. I have no information about that. So if we're gathering information on what we'd like back from a report is like that calcium. What does that cost per year? How will that protect the road? Will it add longevity? I'm very ignorant when it comes to the calcium. So I'll make a motion to defer at this point.
No, I'm going to hang on for deferral because we've had a couple people put lights on. One thing I also mentioned is chip sealing. That's what it is today, is chip seal. I'll go to Councillor Dussault and then to staff.
I do agree with the road widening. That definitely does need to be done because some of those corners are scary and that hill is very blind. The other question I would have, if we were going to look into expanding the campsites, how would you get electrical hookups there? And would it be possible if it was expanded?
I'll go to Mr. Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We can definitely answer that as part of the report. Sure, we can do that. And Mr. Curry wanted to respond to some of the information or providing the information.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I apologize, my throat is still a little bit froggy, but I'll do my best to try and answer a few questions that you brought up tonight. So, well, I think an additional report is definitely something that is something we can do for you. I'll start to the additions, so the trail and the campsites. So this project that we're talking about tonight with the golf course road was the original and the legacy project that came from 2021. This was the holdover. So this is what we started basing all of our numbers on from a budget perspective. We still do have on the radar the additional trail and the campsite work. At this point, this road has nothing to do with the parking lot or anything at the golf course. It will not spill into it other than doing an approach into the current apron that's there. It's not paving it or anything. The concerns identified, as council has alluded to tonight, are the actual width of said road. I share council's concerns, and especially the mayor's, when we're talking about multiple larger RVs or a fire apparatus or anything like that, trying to get in there, especially when we have a restaurant that is now bringing in commercial transport trucks and things like that for their services and their supplies. We have a lot of narrow roadways. When the road was originally built in the early 80s, it was done by the minds of the day. It was very, very small. It was a right-of-way that the Crown actually had. So now we've identified, in our subdivision development and servicing bylaw, to what our road standards are going to be in terms of X width. In that, it includes, we can either do something in an asphalt, or we do have the ability to do a roll road, giving you the appropriate shoulders. We can do a gravel base. The year one costs that are included in this are to rip up, widen, do ditching, culverts. You can see in the included diagrams, there's a lot of sloughing that we're going to be, and water drainage issues from the previous banks that we need to address and make sure that that's all going to be, so that we are spending money that is resilient, or in a road rather, that is resilient. That's going to hold up. It's not something that we're going to have to do every year and rip up and everything like that. Nobody wants to see that. We want to plan for, you know, what is the 10-year flood is now the 5-year flood. So we're upsizing culverts. We're making those decisions now in order to progress the life of this. Can we go to a gravel road? Absolutely. That's council's prerogative in order to make that determination of what the road surface, the finished road surface is going to be. And we can certainly do the asphalt side of it. Could we do the road, the gravel side of it? Absolutely. Both have implications, both in the annual operating budget. Those implications are going to look for years past. So I think all the conversations that we're having tonight are great. My biggest concern and I share this with the Director of Operations, is what are we also doing to our build season? Right now we are in July and we're starting to have these conversations about what we're doing. We are losing daylight fast in terms of trying to get something done that does not negatively impact what is happening at the golf course. So while I appreciate your willingness, or your eagerness to defer, from a staff perspective, we've already done an engineering, we've already taken the steps. We've got engineering drawings. We're to the point of putting this out to tender for construction. So really putting this into your purview now is a benefit to the rest of what the season is going to look like, or we're going to be having this conversation at budget deliberations for 2024.
Thanks for that. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakakin. Thank you for that explanation, Chief Curry. I mean, I think what we're being presented here, regardless what we choose to do with the chip sealing or the asphalt, year one still needs to be done. And in that year one, it is mentioned in our report, to have road widening. So would it be appropriate for us to defeat this motion and just put the first half on to continue at least with phase one? Yeah, that'd be my suggestion.
Yeah, because right now we have both options on there, and I'm not prepared to vote in favor of it. So, Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to reinforce what Councilor Norbury just said. I think that's exactly what I just heard, is I would like to defeat the current motion and suggest that we proceed with phase one and leave the option one and option two or possibly option three by the sound of it, for a later date.
Councillor Julich.
Just the way I'm reading the recommendation, they're just asking us to forward the anticipated costs for year two to the 24 budget deliberation, so I don't think it holds us to any number, because we would deliberate it in our 24 budget deliberation, so I don't think we need to defeat this. I think we can go ahead and vote on this.
Yeah, I disagree, because it talks about doing asphalt. It doesn't talk, the money you can talk about in the budget, but we're approving asphalt on the first option, in my opinion, if we vote on it. No chance of changing it.
I disagree.
We could talk about budget numbers in 2024, and 20% wasn't enough, or 20% lots.
But they're just saying there's two options. Year 2 of option 1. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, any more discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's defeated. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. I'll move that council supports staff's recommendation to complete the golf course road project in a phased approach as outlined in option 1 of their report.
Seconder. Councilor Julich. Discussion? So I am still going to mention the trailway. I understand from staff's view. It's not always shared. To me, when you bring on equipment to start this process, you may not need that same equipment year 2. So when you start to do, whether we want to add a trailway or camp stalls, you now have to get that equipment back into the community. So there's a higher cost to it. I mean, when you do it all at once, it's at a cheaper cost because equipment is already here, i.e. proven in regards to the uphill trail for mountain biking and doing the extra mountain bike trails in behind the Vic Center. Councillor Julich.
For me, I wouldn't be in agreement to put in any more camp stalls down there. I think that we have enough camp stalls within the community right now. I think that sounds from Chief Curry like that would be another project that wouldn't have to be included in here. So far as dollars, I understand the equipment coming in. I just think we still have enough camp spots, and well, it's a whole other topic. So I wouldn't be in favor of that. And so far as the trail, like if we're widening the road, I feel like I understand where Councillor Noxana is coming from. Like I guess I feel like I could walk on what's there already. I don't know that I need a specific path. So for me, I'd rather not hold up this, and I would go ahead as is.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. So just in keeping with what the discussion is we're having, I have a couple of other motions I'd like to bring forward. I don't know if it's my place, but I will take that. I think we need to have a report back for the second year projects, 3 of them. 3 options for us: asphalt, rural road, and calcium chip seal. And I think we should be doing one for bringing back a report on a trail project alongside the golf course road, as well as an expansion of campsites in that area. I haven't written that one down, but I agree with staff in that I think these are 3 separate projects. They may be in the same area, but if we lump them all in together, it may bog it down. So I'd like to see like 3 different projects. So
I don't think we need reports. I think we can have this brought up during budget discussion. We don't need a report. We could probably discuss it at budget season and send them off on reports then.
So you're not looking for anything?
I don't think we need anything. I mean, I'd ask staff, but I think this can be dealt with at budget time.
Okay.
Mr. Woodward? I'm not saying no.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree 100%. We can discuss that. We've got it. We've got the information now after the discussion with council, and we'll make sure that's on it's on a budget discussion.
Councilor Noxana?
I would like to see the cost of building the trail, or at least having the road wide enough for a trail while we have equipment there, though. So that will be over by budget season, won't it?
That would be a second project.
Yeah.
Right, because the motion that carried was to do the roadway thing as option 1.
So can I make a motion to get a report? Or is that a no? Because I've heard that we can't do these 3.
No, I'm not saying you can't.
Yeah.
I will not tell anybody they can't, but what I'm just saying would come up to budget discussion. If you're looking at trying to add a trail this way, if that's what Councilor Norbury's thoughts were, it'd be my apology, but it sounded like it was for the second option, like, not right away. If it's not, then put them on, but it'd be unbudgeted funds.
I would like to make a motion that we see a report on what the cost would be in widening the road as we're working. So as we have people there working already, what's the cost to have it made wide enough for a trail.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Dussault, discussion? I'll just make one comment. I believe there's a trail already there. It's to the side by the bush. It's a grass slash compact trail. Councillor Julik.
I understand your desire for that. I'm not sure what the solution would be at this point, because by the time we got a report back and for us to proceed with the cost, we'll have already had this other one that we just approved out for tender. I think that it's something that if we're going to, like, I totally see where you're coming from with it, but I also know construction season. He did. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with it. I guess for me, I don't know, maybe today I'm just a little more thrifty. Oh, sorry, I meant to turn that off.
Councillor Noxana.
I recognize that there is a grass trail through there. I'm not sure if you've walked it before or attempted to bike it. It is not what I would call a walking trail. It's pretty overgrown and pretty muddy most of the time. This would just be an extension of the trail that we already have around our town, like the multi-use, non-motorized trails.
Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we're just losing focus again. I think the priority that we sort of bent over to make sure that we did is getting that road widened, and that's what I would like to see ASAP. If we're going to do expanded campgrounds and other things, machinery will be brought in again anyways, so I can't support this motion right now. I would like to just start the priority. Let's make that area safe, and then we can decide on nice black road, more campgrounds, side trail of rubber, whatever, but that's not for today.
Mr. Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You already have a motion on the floor?
That seconded.
Yeah. So, and it's my understanding that you're approving option one, year one?
That's already been done and voted on.
Right, okay, you already passed that? Everybody understands that? Okay, good, that's good. So you can deal with the second option, not a problem.
No, we're not dealing with second option. It's a motion about a trailway and a report.
Right.
Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. So I'm looking for a little more, Councillor Noxana. Councillor Noxana, you're looking for like another pathway along the road, almost like a sidewalk? You want a sidewalk beside it?
Yep.
Oh. I was thinking something similar to what we have on these other streets, like a pathway alongside of it, because that's a little easier.
Councillor Noxana.
My understanding is people will be walking. Kids will be walking. I'll be walking or biking. Why not make the road safe for everyone, not just the drivers? We're talking about safety here, and we all understand this road isn't safe.
Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. Would it make sense, though, if we're looking at safety, to have them not on the road? Like build a trail like parallel to it, off to the side? Like that would be my thought.
Okay, call the question. If we can just have the motion read back, staff, Mr. Woodward.
Yes, could you read that back, please, to us?
Please correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Noxana. So that staff brings a report on the costs of widening the road to have it wide enough to have a trail alongside the bush, right? Bush? No, not bush. The road. Okay.
The trail could be a sidewalk, it could be anything. We just need space for non-motorized.
Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is defeated. Okay. Okay, 9.7, report dated July 4th, 2023, from the Recreation Manager regarding ATM alternative report. I'm actually in a conflict due to pecuniary interest. I'll excuse myself. Councillor Julik.
So if I could get a recommendation, please. for the, it's been a while since I did this. Councillor Dussault.
The council receives the ATM alternative report for information.
Seconder. Councillor Hoffman. Discussion. Oh, so for information? Sorry. See, I'm tired. All right. All in favor? Thank you.
Okay, schedule of meetings. Council debrief with EOC. I received an email in regards to it. Mr. Woodward, if I'd be able just to ask staff, I know there were some dates, and I really don't want to be on my phone, but if we could just have an assumption of a date, we would like to do that, debrief with council.
Yes, that's correct. We'd like to prepare a report for that specific thing. And we coming from the chief?
Okay, my email says about doing an in-person debrief.
Oh. I'll ask the chief.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor and council, so yes, I did send an email to his worship earlier today, just putting the bug in his ear about doing an after-action report from an elected official's point of view. So we've done this with EOC staffing, our operations section. We've done it already in terms of focusing on 3 questions. So what went well, what were our challenges, and then what are any of our opportunities for improvement from the EOC's perspective, and then likely from what council's perspective was through the entire event. So I am taking holidays on the 15th for 2 weeks, so if I could try and get council to agree to a time. It takes about an hour. It's not mandatory that council will attend, at least from my point of view. That might not be the mayor's. But to that note, I'm happy to get written answers from any of the council as well for that. So I know that council had a very unique perspective in how the EOC and how the event unfolded. So I'm eager to get that information as part of the report that's going to be, cataloged for the CAO.
Thank you very much for that, staff. Would the morning work better, staff? Mr. Woodward?
We're at your discretion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that.
You make your choice.
Thank you. What's council's thoughts in that, in regards to that? Councilor Julik?
I would like to be part of it. I am interested on how things went, how we maybe could have even been more helpful or not, or got out of town sooner, whatever that looks like. So I'd like to be part of that discussion. If it happens in August, that's fine, but I also appreciate that sooner is better than later, just while this stuff is fresh in our brain. And for me, morning, afternoon, doesn't matter.
What's this week look like?
This week looks scary.
Okay, next week? No, just looking for one, but if you can just have a look at that. Councillor Noxana.
I cannot do the 6th, and I think most of us are busy the afternoon, evening of the 7th, if we're looking at this week.
Yeah. Does Tuesday, the 11th work for council in the morning? Could do 9 a.m.? 10? Does 10 work? Just. Okay. Does that work for staff? It'd be July 11th, and I'm trying to think. Probably thinking off the hop here, but, oh my God. Can't remember my own schedule. July 11th at 10 a.m.?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That will work.
Okay. Thank you. And I guess just to staff, we also have a bylaw workshop, and that is on the 18th and 19th?
Yes.
Meeting of the 18th, 6 to 8 p.m. on the 18th, and 9 to 4 on the 19th.
Okay.
I did put in the invite 8:30 on the 19th, but that's if you want to come and have coffee and donuts.
Okay. Okay, is there anything else in regards to schedule of meetings? Even from staff side, is that all we have at this point? Okay, anything from council that, for under scheduled meetings? Okay. Are there any notice of motions? Okay. Okay, under notice motion, boat launch jurisdiction at the May 23rd, 2023 regular council meeting, Councillor Julik brought forward the following notice of motion. Councillor Julik.
That council gets staff to look into which governing body is in charge of the boat launch west of town along Highway 29.
Seconder. Councillor Dussault. Discussion. Can I get more clarity on this? And like, what are we looking for when we talk governing body? Are we looking for, I just want to know what we're actually looking for down there.
Okay, so what I'm looking for is there's some old signage there, not the signage that WNMS put in for information, but there's an old signpost there. There's a couple of garbage cans. There's mediocre parking discretion at best as somebody who uses the boat launch. It'd be nice to be able to put up some signs showing people what the preference would be for utilizing the space the best. The outhouses, I'm never sure who's supposed to be looking after them, but the one that's there currently is not looked after very well.
Okay, just hang on a second on that.
Okay.
Can we just hear from staff in regards to this boat launch? Because my understanding, one, it is our outhouse. Two, I believe it is our garbage cans. Three, I believe at one point or another, the district actually upgraded the boat launch, maybe through grants, whatever, I'm not really sure of that. So when it comes to signage within that facility, whose job is it? Okay. Mr. Woodward.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Bradley and Mr. Curry, you can respond to this.
Okay, as far as the Murray River boat launch, yes, we do maintain the outhouses. We go there first thing Monday morning after a weekend, and we go there Thursday or Friday, depending on scheduling, to make sure it's ready for the weekend. We also empty the garbages, but as everybody knows, the boat launch is a very busy place. We do our best with staffing to try to maintain that area, but yeah, just so everybody's aware, we do our best right now to maintain that area.
And just to council's question about the governing body, apologies. So it gets a little bit muddled with that because we do have interest from, obviously the district has assets that are down there, but it is registered through Parks and Rec, or Parks and Trails and Rec, whatever they're called these days. So that was my first experience with dealing with that provincial department. When we were talking about ownership and what we were going to be doing down there in terms of cleanliness and things like that. But then there's also procuring interest with Ministry of Transportation because they do have a right of way against the highway. So they were instrumental in expanding the apron a few years ago when we did the big upgrades to both the boat launch and then, you know, the actual parking that now parallels the highway for a distance. So.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Julie, to cut you off, but just wanted to get some clarity on some of the assets we were talking about so that we're not looking for a whole bunch of different ministries, whether it's the Ministry of Environment and all that, because we start talking about garbage and outhouses and, you know, I'm pretty sure I had a good concept that those were district assets. And just before I go to you, I am going to thank staff because, okay, I don't use the boat launch. I've been down there. I appreciate you're doing all you can do, and it's well appreciated, I think, by anybody that uses it. Councillor Julie.
Absolutely, because I get what Mr. Bradley's talking about. It gets really busy. Those weren't my major concerns. It was just one of the concerns. In fact, more so who do I connect with, or who does a member of the public connect with if they do have some concerns? The signage that is down there says the regional district, I believe. And we have lots of really good signage within our community, but there isn't any at the boat launch. And our boat launch gets used a fair bit. So part of that is me as somebody who lives and uses the boat launch, and part of it is me as somebody who I know we are looking at tourism and how to expand that. The other issue, and probably the biggest reason I was looking at this, is there are there's old metal in there from the old bridge. And there's some next to the bank that causes trouble, particularly in low water. And so I was wondering who the governing body is to get that out of there. I could get more specific.
If I was you, I'd be treading lightly what we're asking her.
Well, that's the thing, like, so is there absolutely?
I don't know how to go about this, but I know I can't state. But I'd tread this lightly.
Well, and it doesn't have to be like, I can do my own research if we have partial, like, if we have some talk within that, then I would be happy to reach out to staff here.
Yeah, no, we can have staff do it. I just be careful how you.
Yeah. So anyways, yes, that's why, that was what I was looking for when I was looking at governing body. If I ever had some concerns, or if I knew of somebody that had concerns about the boat launch, who was it that I went and talked to? Or who would I recommend people go talk to? That's why I brought the notice of motion.
Okay. Any more discussion? So I don't want to put words in the council to the mouth, so I'm going to ask. So we're concerned about signage, and we're concerned about leftover debris.
Yes.
So those are two ministries we're looking for.
Or who's in charge of it?
Okay. Or who's in charge of it? Of what? Because there's multiple different ministries in charge of that boat launch. It's going to be fisheries, there's Modi, there's Park and Rec. So if we got concerns about signage, and then about debris, whether it's in the stream or not in the stream, because if it's in the stream, then that's fisheries. So just want to get clarity so that we're asking this, that staff gets in contact with the right ministry that we're going to get back. That's all I'm asking.
I feel like I need to be more specific with staff to the actual debris that I'm talking about before I take this any further. I thought it was a simpler question than what I'm sounding like it is. So the signage, I guess we could work on, like, is that us or is that the regional district? Like, I mean, the signage has got to, I'm hoping is pretty straightforward. But, and then the other thing, I could get more specific and connect with Chief Curry.
Yeah, I would have to, well, we could connect with Mr. Woodward. That's who I would go through, I'm sorry, but I wonder if we shouldn't, I don't want to defer it, but I don't know what council's thoughts are here, but I know with BC Hydro, when they put in Site C, that there was supposed to be, well, there is a legacy fund. I believe we're connected to that, but not until they actually flood the dam. I can't remember what those legacy funds were supposed to be used for. But we also got to be careful along there because there's treaty land entitlement selections along there. So that would be another group that we would have to reach out to. I wonder if we should defer this. I don't want to defer the notice of motion. But I wonder in regards to that we should be just asking for a report in regards to staff doing an overview down there, maybe with Parks and Rec, and coming back with suggestions and how we can partake that. Not trying to get rid of your concept, but I know that you have issues there. Like there's issues with the signage, and if there's debris in the water or on the banks or wherever, if we ask for a report, get that information back, because they'll go down and take pictures and all that and supply that in the report instead of all council driving out there to go have a look, that we don't use, or I don't use it, but I actually haven't even heard from any riverboaters in regard. But if we get pictures and everything else, council gets to all see that, and then we can decide. Like, we can say it's that minister's job, or that ministry, should be careful, but maybe they never clean it up. It's no different than the vehicles that are left in the backcountry that we have a volunteer ATV club that has to go out and remove them. And no fees or charges or anything ever given to the owner of the vehicle, even though you know whose it is. So that might be a better way, but Councilor Nober.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. I don't see anything wrong with Councilor Julich's motion. I mean, sure, it maybe the wording is loose, but like to me, this reads staff will look into which governing bodies operates around the boat launch. I see this as, well, if there's debris in the water, we talk to this people. If there are issues with the signage, we talk to these. You know, we can have a list of these things, and then we can follow up. It sounds like Councilor Julich has particular issues and wants to know where to bring them. Then we'll have a list of where we can bring them and how we can approach the issues. I don't see a particular issue with how it's worded here. This conversation, I think, has given staff enough to go from there. Yeah, I'm in support of the motion. I think it's fine.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. I think when you have specific concerns that she's raising, it's not about every ministry, right? Like I imagine it won't even be a report because we have the ministries on hand. So if we have specific concerns and we can reach out to those proper ministries with a proper report, we're getting those cleaned up. Not just a list of ministries. I can pull it off our UBCM delegation form. It's all right there. That's why I mentioned some of the ones I already know because I looked it up. It states what they're in charge of. So there's a concern there that we're seeing something. We're seeing there's a signed concern and other stuff. So staff is just, to me, going to bring back a list of ministries, and this is go to another notice of motion before it's moved forward. When it's here and we can discuss and debate it, we might be able to defeat this one, but we're still there, so we could bring it up that we're looking for this specific task. Is the only reason. So I understand where you're coming from, but I can pull those ministries up. So, okay, any more discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's defeated. I'll put a motion on the floor. The staff supply report in regards to the boat launch, in regards to signage that's there or not there, and any debris that is of concern, whether it's in stream or out of the stream. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Julik. Councillor Norbury. Sorry.
Just a point of order. We're in the notice of motion period. We weren't talking about the boat launch. We were just talking about creating an action to look into the boat launch. Are you making a notice of motion? I don't know if it's appropriate for us to make a motion to generate any action within the notice of motion.
I put it in regards because the boat launch was the jurisdiction that she brought up. She asked for governing bodies. We're a governing body. We own assets at the boat launch, Councillor Norbury.
I agree, but this is not a business item. This is a notice of motion item. You're asking for business to be conducted. I just think the mechanism we're using here is incorrect.
Okay, I'll bring it up under council business if it doesn't get passed. Any more discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Councillor's business. Thanks, Councillor Dussault, Councillor Noxana, and Councillor Norbury last night. Any other councillor business? I have a couple things. I attended the grad ceremony last Wednesday. It was a well done ceremony in regards to the school setting it up. Some great speeches, one done by Mr. Deely. I thought he definitely had it all on and was able to talk about every student there. All 5 students were very happy in regards to the scholarships that council supported. One thing I will say is it was hot in there. Like, it must have been 35 to 40 degrees inside the gym. I never read my speech. It was too hot. That is a huge concern. I was actually standing at the very back, trying not to pass out, and that's being honest. Trying to drink as much water, plus have a water on my neck. Not sure how all the parents that were sitting close together were doing. Lots were fanning themselves, so that's a huge concern. I didn't realize that schools do not have air conditioning. That was a huge concern of mine at that grad ceremony. Now, Councillor Norbury, if you don't want to bring it to council business, that's fine. I'll go back to notice of motion. But I want to put a motion on the floor that staff write a letter to the school District 59 to see how we can help them get air conditioners in both of the schools in Tumbler Ridg. Seconder, Councillor Noxana. Councillor Norbury? Second before you call point of order.
No, point of order. This is a new agenda item. We need to have unanimous consent before we add a new agenda item. This is a point of order for me, Mayor.
Okay. I can get from staff, it was seconded. I don't think it's an action item, it's a letter. Mr. Woodward?
Mr. Mayor, is it a motion or not?
Yeah, it was a motion to have staff do a letter to the schools, District 59.
Okay. You can accept that as a motion.
Councilor Norbury is calling a point of order, so he says it can't be, business can't be done in councilor's business.
Yeah, actually, he's right. He's correct.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yep.
Okay, we don't even vote on it, so. Okay. Councilor Noxana, did you want to talk about any council business? Yeah, 100%.
I was invited along to view the caribou penning project that Soto and Westmo are doing to work on regrowing the caribou herds. And I feel like I should write all this down because there's so much information. They've gone in the last decade, they've combined two smaller herds that 10 years ago were at 16 and 19 animals, combined them into one of 35 animals. Today they're looking at 132, not counting this year's calves. They've had huge success in this project, and I don't know, maybe you could talk more, Mayor Krauka, because it was a really, really special day that we got to experience.
You bet. I think you made some good comments there. So just the rest of council, I brought it forward when we went to Doig River in regards to culture safety. And I was talking with Dale Bumstead, and then we were talking about the caribou project, penning project. Councilor Noxana, when I mentioned that table, was pretty interested in it. And then drive back, she was bugging me, and I said, I can't promise nothing. So I was able to reach out to Dale. Dale feared we were full, so I thought that was good. Tuesday morning at 5:10 a.m., Mr. Bumstead was able to text me and let me know that a few mayors had to counsel. So I was able to get a hold of Councilor Noxana. So she was able to attend. So it wasn't select one councilor over the other. She's the one that put herself forward that she was very interested in it. So it's the Clensaw maternity pen, and it's the facts that Councilor Noxana mentioned. And so they've increased them, but it's also that they've collared every calf in the wild. So when a calf dies, they can now research why it's passed away, whether it be bear, wolf, something else. So they've had 2 die in the wild. One was definitely recorded as a bear. I asked if it was grizzly or black bear. They just said bear. So, but they keep talking about, and I mentioned it before the rest of council, adopting caribou herd. And I mention it again because that discussion was had up at the penning project. Just kind of asked what it looked like. And to be honest, Chief Wilson, when he first talked to me about it, or mentioned it in our conversation when I first went to meet Westmo, was just throwing it out because him and Scott, that's one of their biologists, had kind of talked about it because, you know, they can see the increase on the herd that they're penning for, but they're not penning the content herd, let's call it, up there. They're not penning those. They do, my understanding, they do have some collar. They're doing the wolf call. So I think there's more information to come in there and what it actually looks like, because it's a cost. I don't say it's cost to us. I'm not saying that, but there's a cost there. But the problem comes down to for Westmo and Soto is manpower. Like they're strapped. They're full board going at it. They have 2 pen keepers that stay out there 24/7, 7 days on, 7 days off. To oversee the penning concept of it and make sure that, you know, they don't have any animals get in. And when I first assumed of a penning project that it was actually a pen, it's not. It's a visual barrier, so they can actually walk right through it if they wanted to. There's electric fence on the outside to keep predator control from going in, but it's just visual wrap. So it was quite neat. I'm not sure how many people have seen caribou in the wild. I've seen them here out by the Argo fill station out by Moose Lake, fairly dry, you know, gravelly, dirty there, or dusty. When you walk into the penning project, when they first open the door, it looks like moose country. It's a muskeg swamp. I was like, caribou live in that? That's exactly what they love. I didn't know that. So it was quite the learning concept. There was 12 of us, I think, that went up. And we were the first 6 to go into the penning project, and we were the only group to see caribou. So we had one caribou walk in up to about 20 feet from us. It was a mom that left her baby back in the tree line and come up to eat. So it was really neat. Councillor Noxana.
I was going to add to that. The pen is 10 hectares. It's not just like a little pen that, oh, you didn't see them because you're blind. It's 10 hectares and it covers their natural maternal ground. So they've been birthing calves there for a millennia. When they started this project, there's 6 or 7 herds in the Peace region. And they estimated the population of all the herds combined 10 years ago were 400 and some caribou. And now all combined, including the this pen, or this herd with the penning project, they're at about 270. So in 10 years, that's a huge decrease, even though this specific herd has increased. So when you talk about adopt a herd or what else can be done in our region, there's huge amounts that have to be done because we're declining as a region still. So I don't know, there's probably more.
Yeah, and I do have a handout that I'll pass off to staff. Maybe they can add it to an agenda and council can go through it. But it'd be great for the public too. But so they have the maternity pending project. Mackenzie does a feed subsidy program right pretty much at the Mackenzie turnoff. There's a herd that runs along in there. So they do a feeding one out there. They don't do any other. They don't do a penning project there. But to me, before we can move on to adopt a herd or something. There's lots of work and collaborations with our Indigenous partners, Westmo, Soto, but also McLeod Lake and Kelly Lake to make sure, I mean, this is their land and we want to make sure they're all involved. But I think we'll see more come from the nations in regards to that. It's something that they're definitely looking at, trying to get more involvement from other people. And then they just talked about the rehabilitation of the cut lines and the cut blocks and stuff. And we've seen some of that work just outside the penning project and how they've done it. Keeps ATVs out and sliders out and stuff. But they have great signage out there and everything. So thanks very much to Chief Wilson and Mr. Bumstead for getting us an invite to the leadership table to that. All right. Any other council business? Cool. I guess I'm just going to ask staff if I can go back to notice of motion.
Notice of motion.
And vary the agenda. Motion to vary the agenda? Go back?
Okay. Put a motion on the floor to, vary the agenda. If I can get a seconder. Councilor Norbury, discussion? Okay, all in favor? Thanks. Okay, so I am going to put a notion on. Thanks to Councilor Norbury. I didn't believe a letter would be of concern in Councilor's business. I think sometimes we, I mean, it's not something that's a time issue. So, put a notice of motion that we ask staff to draft a letter to School District 59, and in regards to how we can assist getting air conditioners for our elementary and our secondary school. Don't need one. Thank you. Thank you, though. Yeah. Okay, question and answer period. Any emailed questions?
No, none.
Okay. So just in regards to this, I think we need to make sure, again, I think I've talked about it before in the question and answer period, that we're actually putting it in our agenda and maybe on our webpage that that we can get it out there, that residents realize they can actually email questions in on the agenda that's for that night. To me, I want to see our residents get engaged, and don't get me wrong, they can definitely come into the gallery. It's usually available every night, but it's nice to be able to actually get our residents engaged and stuff like that. So do we need a notice of motion for that too? Because I know we talked about it, and if I need to give that direction, I'll go back. I'll do it next meeting. I'm not going to go back.
Thank you, Council. Just for, I'll need to research and review your council procedural bylaw, because there's the different topics and headings in there, and I know question and answer period is in there, so I'll have to see what it says in there for the language. It may be a means that we have to bring it back and amend it.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to put a motion on the floor to vary the agenda one more time. If I get a second, I got something I meant to do at scheduling meetings. Councilor Gillick, thank you, sorry. All in favor? Thank you for that. I meant to bring it up. I actually wrote it down, but I didn't bring my book in tonight. I understand that next week we're going to do the debrief. We should also maybe be discussing when we want to do community-wide, whether we call it an open house, a let's talk in regards to the fire evacuation. I think it's only right that we give our residents a chance to ask their questions, speak up, whatever they feel comfortable or feel like they need to do. But I think we should be talking about that at the PMP and come up with a date that hopefully all of us are in town. I understand it's the summertime, and do I think this is something that we should do soon? Yes, but if it has to wait till after summer, that's fine too, but I think that should be discussed, that we're open to it and willing, or I know I'm willing to do it. I think it's only right, so. Thanks for that, Councillor Julick. Okay, take adjournment. Councillor Dussault.
That the July 4th, 2023 regular council meeting be adjourned.
Seconder, Councillor Hoffman. Pardon me, all in favor? Carried.